Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. This is the third and final session in the series, Planning for CRM Success. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we're joined once again by Rick McCutcheon. Rick presented the first event in this series 2 weeks ago and the second event last week. I will post links to those recordings in the chat once we get going here in case you haven't seen them. Today's event is all about building a successful user adoption program. And as we get started, I just want to add that we invite you to add your feedback and ask questions today during Rick's presentation. Please use the Q&A block that you'll see to the right of the slide display area where you can ask your questions. Rick will save some time at the end to take them. So without further delay, please allow me to turn things over to Rick McCutcheon. Rick. Oh, let me take you off mute.
Oh, hi, Jason. Rick McCutcheon. How are you today?
Hey, Rick. Welcome.
Good. Great. Just want to make sure that you can hear me and see the slides all right?
We do.
Okay, we're all set to continue. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the third part of this series. This is a pretty exciting time for me going through this with you. If you haven't viewed the last couple of videos, I suggest you do that to kind of get caught up because we've covered a lot over the last two sessions. So hopefully it's been good information, and I know we're making the slides available along with some supporting materials that we worked on as well. So a little bit of my background, I've been long-term in the CRM business, mostly working around Salesforce automation projects. You can see that in the name of my company, Full Contact Selling. I'm a CSP, Certified Sales Professional, and a Dynamics CRM MVP, Most Valuable Partner. So I know a little bit about CRM and a little bit about managing projects in CRM. So hopefully I can help you, get a greater return and help you get through this whole, CRM sort of project quagmire. So let's start out by talking about the ROI, and I talk about this every time we have a session, but here's a study from Nucleus Research says for every dollar you invest in CRM, you should see a $5.60 return. Now, I think it could be significantly higher than this if we do CRM right, but we're seeing more and more of this come out because of mobile marketing, analytics, and mobile access. So it's all good news about CRM, and this is why we're seeing the growth in the CRM market and many companies working on implementations just because there's a strong ROI, there's a strong need, and we've got all this social information coming at us now, and we need CRM to be able to better manage that information. But if you go back to my earlier sessions, we have a longer conversation on these topics. So this is kind of the flow chart we've been following. So we talked about setting objectives, putting your CRM team together, going for budget, and really talking to executives about CRM, how to do a business review and process mapping. If you haven't seen those sections, please go there. It's really crucial information, especially in my background, Salesforce automation, get the process right. Requirements, design, build, test, and pilot. Today, it's all about the user and user adoption and training. So this is my favorite part. This is the area I really specialize in, working with organizations. And part of the work I do in the user group community is around, building these user adoption programs. I also facilitate enterprise and SMB user adoption roundtables for the association. So I get a lot of insight to how other organizations are doing it, both large and small, and making their users happy so they'll use the CRM. So let's talk about the benefits of training. Now, more than once, in fact, dozens of times I've looked at people's CRM project plans or CRM proposals from partners coming in. And, I drastically see a missing component over and over again. It's really this training one. So why do we need training? We need training for a lot of reasons. We're making a lot of change management, especially if we have a sales team out there that hasn't used CRM before, and we're expecting them to change what they do and start to use our CRM system. One of the things that I always tell people is, your sales team may not be using CRM as you know it, but they have a CRM system. And those CRM systems most of the time are Excel spreadsheets, or they've got some system with an Outlook with folders, but they've got a system that's working for them. What we're trying to do is deploy a system that's better than what they have, that gives us a group benefit. So again, go back to my process mapping section and you'll see the real benefits of, selling as a team, selling as a group, and working with CRM together. So I'm going to use examples in my world of training salespeople and what's really, really important. So why do we want to hold training? And when I say training, I mean, why do we want to get people in a room and watch them use a computer? It drastically improves user adoption. So if I can get a sales team in the room, what we typically do is we'll have an instructor in front of the room and we'll have a support person in the back of the room. We'll take and we'll pair up our salespeople. So if we have 20 people in the room, we put them into 10 two-person pods. One's an advanced user or, a better user than the other one. So another one may be a weak user. And we have them team together. They both use their own computer, and we both take them through a day in the life of what they do. I'm going to talk about that a little farther in this presentation of what that day in the life looks like. But this drastically improves user adoption because we identify early on in the process who the problem children may be, either because they just don't have the computer skills or they're not buying in, or also if there's any technical problems with a computer, it's going to come up with in user adoption in this training process as we start to move through it. So we want to be able to have training to do that. We're going to have better quality data. We're going to teach them the importance of data, how to put data in the system, and hopefully we talked about this earlier in last week's presentations about the value of giving them good data. So if they're inputting data correctly, our data is going to be more valuable. We'll have less decline in productivity if we take them out of the field and train them for a couple of days. They'll be able to go back in the field, start using the program, start using the software. That's really, really crucial. We don't want to come to a point where we say, okay, you haven't used it in 2 weeks, go put all your information. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for the rep. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the company. So we want to make sure that when they leave the room, they can use the system. Especially sales teams, they're going to give you immediate feedback on the usability of the system, any problem areas within this system, or problem areas with their own ability. Like, advanced find, how do I do that? I don't understand how to do that. So how do we sit down and explain things like that to them? And you know what? Training helps us build team spirit. It helps us get, a group of people in a room, help us build our champions, have some good news stories happening around it, and really make it an important event around CRM. And we'll do some things like we'll have the kickoff where the VP of sales gets up and, gives that sort of rah-rah speech where this is important to the organization, important to his team, and how this is all going to move them forward. Again, this is ROI. This is all around the training. So we can do a lot once we get our group in a room. And I know sometimes we can't get our group in a room, and sometimes we have to depend on doing things over a WebEx like we are doing today, but the best practice, the best thing we can do is get in front of people. So we'll continue on and talk a little bit more about training. So when we train people, we typically look at this. We evaluate their skill level so we can sort of match them up with a stronger user, and we'll really get into CRM basic and then CRM intermediate training. So we don't want to hit them with everything all at once, and we don't want to hit them with too much advanced stuff. And I know some of the basic stuff is going to be too easy for our advanced users, but I think we have to kind of bring the whole group together through the basic training and then through the intermediate training. I try to space training, at some time apart. So if we have our first day, which is our basic CRM training, we may have that live, and we may have a series of webinars or online trainings to give them that intermediate training. So make sure that you're covering all the subject matter and you're kind of explaining to people. We typically do follow-up surveys with people, find out, what did you like, what didn't you like, where do you think you need help, because we want their feedback. And we also do a series of supporting functions after that. So, we'll do webinars to support what we trained before. From those webinars, we tend to build a series of recordings so people can go back, and especially if we have new people coming on, we can record those webinars and they can go into our library and look at that training. Coaching around the process, right? So how are we working our sales process within the CRM? And then, really one-on-one coaching on where your problem areas are using the CRM. So, we'll take the training. We tend to watch the data. So we watch the data to see who's using the system. Then we'll have an intervention, right? We'll come back and say, okay, we notice you're not using the system. So we try to find out, are they not using the system because they don't like the system? Are they not using a system because they don't feel they have time to use a system, or do they not have the computer skill set to do it? We determine what that problem area is, work on that problem area through coaching and through one-on-one training. So there's a lot of things we do, but the training and user adoption program, to me, really needs to last for probably 4 to 6 weeks after the initial training to make sure everything gets kicked off properly and that we make sure we use the system correctly. Okay, so we're going to have some different people that need to be trained. We need your IT team trained on how to sort of update the system and maintain the system, right? And if you're not using CRM Online, how to install the system. So typically that's a 3 or 4 day course. We send them off to a training center to have this, and dynamic CRM training is pretty much nationwide now, so you shouldn't have a problem finding somewhere to send your IT staff or bring somebody in to have a train. So what's the IT staff going to be doing on the system? Well, technical troubleshooting. There's always something, somebody's always downloading something into a browser or into Outlook that's going to cause you problems. How do they're going to be troubleshooting that. They're probably going to be doing some programming eventually and building out customizations for you. And again, depending on your organization, you may have some complex reporting needs going forward. Of course, they're going to be user technical support. They're going to be handling upgrades if you're using CRM on-premise. If you have any ISV add-ons, such as Click Dimensions for marketing, they're going to have to probably help with the install of that. And then they're really going to be a part of that future planning on upgrades, on product expansions, on the usability, on components in the product that you're not using today that you want to bring forward. So your IT staff is really going to be taking care of that CRM backbone. The person I really want to focus in on here, though, is that CRM administrator. Okay. Now, if I go in during our sessions we did on user adoption with the user group community, the companies that are succeeding with CRM always had a CRM administrator. The ones that were having problems with CRM and user adoption and in different areas that were giving them trouble tended not to have an administrator. And when I say an administrator, that's somebody who's sort of technical, but on the business side, who helps with the business strategy and information going in the system. So if you're rolling out CRM to 5 users, to 10 users, to 5,000 users, you're going to need some kind of administration help. So what does that person do? They're going to be the first line of support with the users. If somebody doesn't know how to do anything, we'll give them videos, we'll give them, options to go online and look for information. But 9 times out of 10, the sales rep's going to call somebody and say, how do I do that advanced find? How do I do that lookup? How do I use this dashboard that you gave me? How do I drill in and get the information I need out of it? And they're really that first line of support and training and coaching. Very, very important on user adoption. And it's going to be the administrators that are concerned about, are they using it? How are they using it? Are they adding data to the system? Adding data to the system is the tell of whether they're using it or not using it. These people get involved with the CRM strategy because they see what's working, what's not working, and where other needs are growing. If you get a new person, they're responsible for the onboarding, the training, and getting them set up. So they manage users and teams in the system. They'll do the data management. So if somebody wants to add a mailing list or someone goes to a trade show, comes back with a CSV file and say, can we add it to the system? Your administrator is the one responsible for that. And again, they'll do user customizations and reports. They'll do ISV management for add-ons. And, they spend a lot of time themselves on personal development, learning how to work with CRM, what they can do with CRM. And these are some of the main members of our user group community. So they really become that coach, that catalyst for your internal CRM system. So make sure you've got the right person in there, sort of quarterbacking the CRM, and that's your admin. I put together a few slides that just kind of talk about what the admin training would look like. Configuration, organization to structure, configuring security, configuring users and teams, configuring system settings, managing data, duplicate data detection, how to work with duplicate data, how to create data maps, how to work with reports, how to work with dashboards. So there's a lot of different things that this person's going to be involved with. Using advanced find and getting those advanced finds into exports, because a lot of people say, can you look this up, put it in Excel for me? They typically need someone to do that, someone who can work with queries, who can build queries and save them for people, someone who can work with customizing forms, maybe adding data to lookups, uh, you know, uh, adding a field to your CRM, or even hiding a field to your CRM. So there's a lot of little things that are going to be ongoing because, as we said earlier, CRM is forever. If we're using it for Salesforce automation or any business process, it's going to be following a process that's going to change, that's going to fine tune once we get in here. So there's always going to be some upgrades and things that need to be completed. This is interesting. So people always ask me, how do I teach salespeople how to use CRM? Well, this is an outline. So I went through and looked at some of the outlines that I've done for different organizations. And this is a little course I had for one group we called Power Selling with Technology. And this was a combination course of sales training and using CRM. So we kind of put it together and we did it over 2 days. So it was really about the day in the life of a salesperson using CRM to sell. So I'll just give you a little bit of information on how I prepare a sales team for this. So I'll tell the sales team that, hey, we're going to be using dynamic CRM in your sales process. When I do the sales process mapping, I make sure we go out to the sales team and we get their buy-in before we roll it out. So, we may design the CRM process with a group, and then we may have a webinar talking about that process and letting people know what we're really up to and where we're going to proceed to with the CRM. From that, we say, okay, now can you take 10 business cards and bring them with you to the training? And I want those 10 business cards to be someone that you haven't put in the system, and you may have an opportunity with them, or you may be doing some kind of follow-up, and that becomes their data they use for training. So I get them to put in their 10 business cards into the system as a lead, convert that lead to an account contact and opportunity, then we teach them how to work with it, just like they would in the field. So when we train salespeople, they're doing their own input. They're doing their own typing, or if you have them working off an iPad, we give them something that they're going to be using just like they're going to do it in the field. And then we start saying, okay, how do I use this lead account contact information to do work? How do I do pre-call planning and internet research? And a lot of that is you now have CRM Online, so you've got a copy of Dynamics Insights, which is inside View. How do I use that to look up more people in the system, look up people in companies I'm working with? I can link into them, I can follow them on Twitter, and I can bring them into my CRM system. So we make it completely relative to what they do. Again, prospecting with Microsoft CRM, how to build your lists, how to add people to marketing campaigns, how to do your follow-up and build what we call keep warm strategies. How do I use CRM and when I qualify an opportunity, when I do discovery, when I convert leads, and at what point do I convert leads? When do I do a sales presentation, and how does CRM play a role in my sales presentation? So we really kind of went through their day in a life of how they work, and we kind of jumped into CRM, came out of CRM, showed them where we had documents in the system for them, how we had templates in the system for them, how we had emails, what their dashboards looked like, what they could look up. So it was really sort of a laboratory of a sales process in front of them that they're working through. The more you can detail this out, the more that you can put in the CRM relative to what they do, the better it is. So really, when we train the salespeople, it's all about the day in the life. So there's lots of things that we can do to make it easier for them, put in good data, but I'm telling you, the training is the really key component. So here's some rules I have when we're setting up this training program. And training and user adoption to me is all one. You got to use experienced trainers. I've been through many of these train the trainer type trainings, and most of them are pretty horrible. We can't take someone who doesn't know CRM, who doesn't know process, put them in front of the room after a training and get them to train CRM or get them to train any application. It's very, very difficult. Training is a profession. There's people out there who do training on an ongoing basis, especially once we get something, it's complex as CRM, how to use it, what to do with it. It's going to be part of my day in the life. They've got to be able to, work with an audience, relate to an audience, and support that audience. And that's what an experienced trainer will do. Make sure training is mandatory. Make sure people can't sort of skip out of the training or, not make it to the training. If they're not available for one day, they can't come to the live training for whatever reason, then they've got to sit through a one-on-one WebEx, learn it. So we've got to set that expectation for everybody. Training is not a one-time event. It's part of the user adoption, and it should be ongoing. Train by department, as I said, put the salespeople together, put the marketing people together, put the admins together. Their day in the lives are very, very different. And I'll add to this, make sure the managers get trained. Make sure the manager's sitting with the team using the system so they understand what the person's going through on a day-to-day basis. As I said before, initial training should be live. We want to eliminate distractions because I know there's probably 50 people on this WebEx today, and probably half of you aren't looking at the screen right now. You're probably working on something and listening. So that's okay for this webinar, but it may not be so good if I'm trying to teach you how to use CRM. Leverage webinars, leverage videos, pre and post. On the video thing, we also do, not only we record the WebExes, we'll record snippets. So we'll go in and the product I use, I think it's Camtasia Studio, and we'll go in and we can record screen captures of what we're doing, and we kind of put those into 2 and 3 minute bits so people can say, how do I put in a new lead? How do I convert a lead? How do I close an opportunity? So these can all be just little snippets of videos that we can put out there that they can watch at their own leisure. Promote your champions and promote your coaches. If we get somebody who's very good at CRM and really likes it, make sure they're on the webinar leading off the next session. Make sure when we have our sales meeting, have them talking about how they use CRM and how it's made their job easier. And, just don't rely on sort of help files or any sort of written documents for training and support. It really becomes that sort of interaction, that coaching, that visual thing, especially with the sales team and learning and teaching them user adoption. So how else do we improve user adoption? And I think we improve user adoption really through ongoing learning. How do we keep on track of what's going on? How do we learn? So especially from the administration part of things, I say, you know what, you got to get out there on YouTube and watch the videos. So if you're going to implement CRM 2015 right now, if you're moving there, go on to YouTube and there'll be 100 videos out there about all the components of 2015. Go in, look at them, understand them, see what you like, see what you don't like, see what components you want to bring in, but understand. So YouTube is one of my greatest support mechanisms for teams. Also, LinkedIn. There's some fantastic groups on LinkedIn that talk about different subjects. And one of the things I'll find out about LinkedIn by using it is that, if I have a technical question, I can put it up there. But if I have a non-technical question, how do I get my salespeople to use CRM? You can get help from the business side. So go out there, and if you're on Dynamic CRM, join the big Dynamic CRM group. I have one group, what we call Dynamic CRM User Adoption Success, where we post information on different things that help your teams use CRM, and we answer questions in there. So there's some great resources. They're free. They're out there. You just need to go out and get them. Dynamics Marketplace, there's different components. This one's called Pinpoint. There's different ones that Microsoft's building out there that will go out where you can find what they call the ISV products or the solution products out there that wrap around Dynamics CRM to help you be more productive. So there's lots of little pieces out there that can help you build a better product. There's also, if you go back to my first session, I talked about the ISV applications. So there's a whole series of companies that have written add-ons to Dynamics CRM. Some of them are like ADX Studios for the portals for any web interaction. I've worked with CRM Gamified for gamification. I've worked with IPM Global for construction industry. I've worked with GenBill for an HR add-on to CRM. So there's lots of really good applications written that you can go out there. A lot of the times just download them, start using them. So make sure you're up to speed on what's being developed for that CRM ecosystem. Then there's lots of blogs. So these available, so you can go and check out these blogs, but there's all kinds of great writers out there. There's people out there, I don't know how they get the time, but they spend lots of time looking at what's in CRM, talking about, how to improve it, how you can use it better. It's a whole ecosystem of information. So please go out there and visit some of these blogs and follow some of these writers, because I think they have some great information. And of course, my full contact selling blog, you must absolutely belong there. And then here's another resource that's fairly new called the CRM App Store, where they're starting to build smaller add-on applications and more widget type things that you can download for CRM. So make sure you go out there and have a look at it. There's a big community now on Facebook as well for Dynamics CRM that you can belong to, where there's some great conversations and information on different shows and events that are coming. Even on Google Plus, there's a whole Dynamics CRM world. So if you're a Google Plus user, make sure you get out there and subscribe to it. And one of the most important events is in October in Reno, Nevada. We're having the CRM User Group Summit. So throughout my presentation, I talk about the user group community, and that's CRM UG. So CRM UG is an independent organization that is the official user group community for Dynamics CRM. I chair about 5 of their chapters in Canada, and I'm on the leadership committee for their national leadership group. So I'm heavily involved with this organization, and I really believe it's one of the most important things to do when you start using Dynamics CRM is join this group. It'll give you some of the best information you can get on CRM. It'll allow you to interact with other customers, end users of CRM, and learn from them on how they get things done. So if you can make it out to Reno, Nevada in October 13th to 16th, we're going to have probably, my guess, around 1,200 end users in our conference this year. So should be a great event. So, go out, join the UG, and support your local chapter. I think we're probably up to 80 local chapters across North America. So remember, CRM is forever. So when we're planning for CRM success, CRM is not something that we start up, we implement, and it runs. It's something we're going to start up, we're going to implement it, right? Have it running, but that's when your CRM project really starts, because that's when your user community starts to use it as that relationship infrastructure. That's when they start putting in the data. That's when they have the requirements. 2 types of support you're going to have. You're going to have that technical support on how to keep things running, but you're going to have that usability support, and that's our administrator. Make sure that's in place. Develop your own internal CRM ecosystem, and that could involve consultants, that could involve the user group community, that could involve your partner, that could involve different team members in your organization. If your company's big enough, you should have a CRM group within your organization. In fact, I'm working with one company that's actually developing a CRM Center of Excellence. Of course, there are 1,000 users, but that's sort of their commitment to this product, and that's their commitment to moving things forward correctly and making sure they get the best out of CRM and the greatest ROI. Make sure there's always support and training available when people need it. Leverage webinars and videos, and again, I keep going back to get involved with that user group community. So, admin support and next steps. So, again, make sure you're kind of growing your system, and make sure when you're doing your future planning for CRM, you really know where you want to go. And I think this comes back to our process mapping. When we do sales process mapping, a lot of it's marketing, administration, social, account management. We kind of bring it into a great big set of process maps. And what we said, okay, in CRM phase 1, we're just going to do this. Let's do this lead management system. Let's get that working, get that return on investment from people, get good data into their hands. And we say, okay, that's the change we're going to do. Then we'll say, okay, phase 2, we're going to really focus on opportunity management, pipeline management, and doing our sales forecast. Phase 3 is we're going to work on the compensation management side of things. Once we convert those CRMs, how do we manage that project, and how do we manage the compensation we're paying out for the team? Phase 4 could be marketing automation. or that could be actually an earlier stage. But, we start to say, okay, here's the overall project that we have, and where are we going to go in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. That way we plan properly, we budget properly, we get everything in place and everything that we need to move our projects forward on an ongoing basis. Make sure you interact with your people, get their feedback, know what they want. Make sure that you're going out to, or things like the user group, meeting people, understanding how they're getting an ROI on CRM, so you can add that to your plan. But really, we're saying that CRM is forever, and it's the future of relationships within an organization, and especially with the way people are using social media today, it's they're going to be the backbone of conversations with your customers, with your partners, and with your prospects. So to get a hold of me, I'm Rick McCutcheon at Full Contact Selling. There's my number as well. I have several groups within LinkedIn that we manage around user adoption. Make sure you subscribe to MS Dynamics World. The videos for this presentation will be available up there, along with supporting materials for our first 2 sessions. So, Jason, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and maybe we can take some questions from the audience.
All right. Thanks so much, Rick. To everyone in the audience, we did post links in the chat area for our previous sessions, session 1 and 2 on introduction to CRM and planning and designing CRM projects. So definitely check those out. There's also materials there, especially on session 2 with the slides and some other good materials that Rick supplied. We'd definitely welcome your questions now. We'd love to hear your experiences, what you would do differently, what you're dealing with right now, and perhaps a CRM implementation or rolling out a new stage, perhaps. Rick, one of the things you mentioned I thought was interesting, professional trainers as opposed to training the trainer. Is training services and adoption techniques or methodologies, is that an important factor when evaluating a CRM partner in your view, or is that really something that goes back to the internal processes of the organization?
Well, many companies don't have somebody who's experienced with CRM, especially on the training side. Sometimes technically they do, but they usually don't keep the CRM trainer around for a long time. It's usually just during that initial rollout where you need that person. When I work with a lot of partners, and there's almost 2 types of partners. There's ones that come at CRM from an infrastructure direction, where they're saying, okay, we can install it, get it technically running for you. Now you've got it, it's all yours. And there's other partners that have more of a program. So make sure you're looking at a partner that's got a program for you. And that program should be, how am I going to help you with the planning? How am I going to help you with the implementation? How I'm going to help you with the user adoption? Make sure there's a project plan around those 3 components, right? The planning, the implementation, around the user adoption. And when I get brought into a project that has failed, and 9 times out of 10 it's failed because of user adoption, the plan ended at the implementation. There was very little training and no user adoption. So when I see this, it's time and time again. It's that where people don't budget for it. They don't have that as part of the project, and long term the whole thing fails. And I've seen companies invest millions of dollars in systems, and at the end spend nothing on training and fail.
Yeah, that's a point I've heard for years is allocating that time and that money even into the training. Do you have a rule of thumb on what portion of a project should get allocated to training investments, or does it vary?
It varies in the size and how technical the project is, but I tell people to really look at this as a third, a third, and a third, right? So if somebody comes in and says, all right, it's going to be $100,000 for your project, then it should be, let's say even 25 for the planning, 50 for the design, build, implementation, and another 25 on the user adoption, right? You've got to keep all 3 components as very, very important. And, if you have a small sales team, it's going to be less on the user adoption, but if you have hundreds or thousands of users out there, your training and user adoption budget is probably as big, if not bigger, than that whole implementation budget. The important thing is a project plan. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, my email's there. I'll send you out a sample project plan with all the components in it, and you'll see there's a whole bunch of planning components. There's a whole bunch of design, build, and implementation components in it, and a whole bunch of components for the user adoption. So it's really have a project plan so you know what the resource allocation is going to be. So when I talk about resource allocation, it's going to be, what are you going to supply as the end user customer to get the project done, and what are we going to ask the partner or the person who's helping us, what are they going to do? And, on that project plan, we need both sets of people so we know, hey, we've got this data in front of us. It's got to be cleaned up. Who's going to clean up the data? How many hours? Well, if neither one of us want to clean up the data, then we have to, go to a third party who's going to come in and clean up the data. So there's little things within a project plan, but it'll help you say, okay, to get from step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we have to do these tasks and we have to allocate the time.
All right, so for everyone on the line, Rick's email is right up there on the screen, and obviously feel free to get in touch for more information. We'll also be posting this event online. If anyone hasn't caught all of it, you can catch it later. When you do close out today, please look for a survey that'll pop up. We really appreciate the feedback on how the webcasting experience was, and also I know our speakers always appreciate that feedback too. It's just probably 15 or 20 seconds to fill that out. So with that, we're going to start to wrap up. We do have a question. Do you want to just take that yourself?
You mentioned you have a 4 to 6 week for implementation or user adoption period. So the 4 to 6 weeks is where we actually sort of audit the data. So we go through and say, okay, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to watch the data. We're going to make sure you're putting your data into the system. And then we're going to kind of stay close to you and coach you for 4 to 6 weeks. So we keep watching everything and keep coaching for 4 to 6 weeks. That's the official program. So after that, we may have some users that just aren't going to use it. Then we're going to have to deal with it differently, typically through management. But 4 to 6 weeks is sort of the official period. Then it kind of goes into my admin person support to be able to do it. So as I said, nothing stops. CRM is forever. Training and user adoption is forever. But I think the official program where we have the follow-up, the webinars, the training, we have it for a set period.
All right, great question. It does look like the end of our question queue, though. So now we will start to wrap up. Rick, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's see if we have any more questions here. I think one more just came in. You mentioned the importance of admins. Should that person be one of the users or dedicated?
Depending on the size of the implementation. If you got 5 people in a company, that could be a user. I try not to have a user doing it because they've got a lot of other tasks. In smaller organizations, it's kind of a lot of times it's the marketing person who's in charge of the CRM. In larger installs, even up to 20, 30 people and up, that admin typically becomes, a marketing person, but the CRM becomes a big part of the day. Depends on how they absorb CRM as the culture of the company and what they do and how aggressive they get on their implementation. But if we can get somebody dedicated to it as an admin, the ROI is going to be much, much higher.
All right, great question. I'm going to make one final call for questions here. I am not seeing anything else. Are you, Rick?
No, that's good, Jason. Thanks for your time today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Remember, there's 2 other videos that go along with this one. So if you watch the 3 of them together, hopefully it'll give you some help in this area.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.